Welcome to the North Oakland Republican Club. This is our January meeting. We're glad you could make it. Our Attorney General debate. I'm Matt Marco, the club president. We have a place you can join the club, $20 a year, which is pretty cheap. And we put on programs like this and more to try to create information for the public. Our meetings are free and open to the public. We just want people to make the right decision if they're well informed. And being that we're all patriots here, have we got any veterans in the we got a veteran? Only one veteran? Okay, well, thank you to our veterans. Being that we're patriots, we always start off, if you'd please rise for the national anthem. National anthem. I meant the Pledge of Allegiance. What am I saying? I'm not going to sing, don't worry. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we got our NORC board members here. Will the NORC board members please rise? We got, thank you all that. Jim Tino couldn't make it, thank you. Dave Schultz, our treasurer. Julie Days, our secretary and our timekeeper. Jim Runstad, who's also the chairman of the party. I don't think he could make it tonight. Linda Jolicoeur is the lovely lady out there at the sign-in desk. Mike Kowal is one of our moderators. I'll introduce him. And Tom Bartz is our sergeant at arms, which I don't know about you, but I feel a lot safer knowing that Tom Bartz is here. And I want to welcome our precinct delegates. How many people here are precinct delegates? All right, excellent. Thank you all for coming. It tells me that you're doing your due diligence. As you know, the Attorney General is nominated by precinct delegates at the March State Convention. And we got two excellent candidates, and it's a tough decision to make. And I know after being a delegate for 12 years, it takes a lot of thought to decide. We take it very seriously. So that's why NORC puts on something like this. And we think a debate is better than a forum because it allows the candidates to give thoughtful answers, and you could hear them giving them at the same time. Also, you will see we did this in 2018. We had a debate here, and then we did this again in 2022. And you can see those debates on our YouTube channel. If you go to our webpage, you'll be able to scroll down and link to our YouTube channel. And we're going to put this up on our YouTube channel as well. And we've got sponsors tonight. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Genevieve Peter Scott, who's running for U.S. Senate, Tony Prieto, who's running for Congress in the 11th District, and Anthony Forlini, who is running for Secretary of State. And these last two are going to be at our meeting, speaking at our meeting in, this is our next meeting, which will be on February 25th, a Wednesday. And the reason why it's on a Wednesday rather than a Thursday like it normally is, because the county convention got moved to conflict on our Thursday, so we moved our meeting back to Wednesday, February 25th. And we've got information out there in the back. Also, we got, I want to welcome we've got some candidates here. We've got Rowan Grasky is here. Where are you, Rowan? He's running for state rep in 54th District. Got a few judge candidates here. Jessica Hallmark, that's a great name, Jessica. You hear it? And she's running for probate judge. There's another, I didn't get his name, another gentleman running for, what other candidates have we got here that are, Okay, there's another judge. There you go. I forgot your name. Ariel Dresky. He's also, and these guys are here collecting signatures. You have to collect a lot of signatures to make it on the ballot. So I give them credit for, it's a lot of work. I'd like to introduce our moderators tonight. And I'm very proud to have these guys as moderators. First of all, we got State Senator Mike Kowal. He's a former state senator. He was the floor majority leader in the state Senate, as well as several other positions. Every time I list off all the elected positions he's had, he says, "Oh, it's because I can't hold a job." So, sorry to steal your. Thank you. Thank you. And we've also got Ryan Berman, who was a candidate here. If you look at the video from our last debate, he was one of the candidates for Attorney General, and an outstanding candidate. And he was also a state rep, very good state rep. And we're very fortunate that he is willing to run to be a state senator now. So. And I always like it when somebody, like a very successful lawyer like Ryan Berman, runs for something like that. It's a major pay cut to become a state senator, state rep, but it just shows a lot of dedication and somebody who really wants to do what's right for the state. So thank you for running. I'd like to talk about the rules of the debate. We got our lovely timekeeper here, Julie Day. She's got paddles. We're going to give the candidates 2 minutes to and the reason why I'm not going to introduce our candidates, because I don't want to show any sign of any kind of favoritism. So we're going to let our candidates introduce themselves. We're going to give them each 2 minutes for that. And we're going to leave a lot of discretion to our moderators as far as for each question. Now, the questions were sent in by members of NORC who emailed them in. I want to thank everybody who sent in questions. Very good questions that came in. And we're looking forward to hearing the responses to them. Each question is going to get a specific amount of time, and Julie is going to hold up a paddle, and that will let our candidates know how much time they got left. She's got several paddles there at different times on them. And our candidates have agreed to stick to to obey Julie over there, because otherwise, they're going to probably need our sergeant at arms to escort them to the parking lot. So that's basically our, and then at the end, we're going to give them 2 minutes to close. So, and if they're called out, if during a response, if somebody does call out, it'll be up to the discretion of the moderators to see if they need, the other candidate needs like 30 seconds to respond to that. I want to thank Tony Bartolota, the supervisor of Waterford, for allowing us to use this facility. And I know Sam Harris is here, who is a trustee. Very good. Thank you to the trustees. Any other trustees here from Waterford? So what's going on? The reason Tony isn't here, he was going to be here. The Waterford Chamber of Commerce is having an awards dinner tonight. So I think all of them are over there, and it happens every time we plan anything, there's going to be a conflict. But
before you get going too far, I just want to notice that our Congressman Bentivolio just
came in. Congressman Bentivolio, I didn't see you come in, sorry. Thank you for coming. Good job. Did anyone else sneak in? I know Bill Best is here. He's the sort of the ringleader of the Waterford delegates. Captain of the Waterford delegates. It's the first time I've seen a captain of the delegates, and that is not easy to try to rein them all in. Who else we got here? I can't see back there. Is that Tony Prieto back there? Okay, it's very dark back there. He's one of our sponsors, Tony Prieto, and he's going to be speaking at our next month's meeting. Thank you for coming. And he's running for Congress in the 11th, where Congressman Bentivolio was the congressman a few years ago. Okay, we got anything else? All right. Oh, Mike Steger is here. He's also running for Congress in the 11th. If you can look at our, I didn't see you sneak in either. If you look at our YouTube channel, you'll see that he spoke a few months, I think in our October meeting. And you can see what his remarks were. And then next month we'll give the other gentleman a chance to present himself. We always try to be very fair and even and not show any preferences here at NORC towards a candidate. We never endorse a candidate. If we have a sponsor, that does not mean that we're endorsing. So with all that being said, gentlemen, or moderators, are we ready to start? Okay.
I heard we have a strong hard cutoff at midnight. So
okay, midnight. Sorry. All right, let's get going. I'd like to let our gentleman, maybe I'll kick it off in this order. We got Kevin Kiefsky and Doug Lloyd. We'll start off with Kevin Kiefsky to introduce himself, and it'll be 2 minutes. Thank you.
Well, good evening. My name is Kevin Kiefsky, if you want to say it the Polish way. Kevin Kajewski, if you want to say it the English way. It doesn't matter to me. My Polish mother's not here in the room. She's over there in Macomb County. It's great to be with all of you because when it comes to Michigan, now is the time to make it absolutely ruby red again. Why am I running to be your next Attorney General? Because I have 2 notable victories in addition to a whole bunch of other things I want to do, but the 2 notable victories are against this current Attorney General. So number 1, take a look at during COVID, November of 2020. What did the governor, in addition to the Democrats, want to do? They wanted to shut down the high schools during that time, calling the kids super spreaders. As the vice chairman of the Michigan Association on Public Schools and working with others, I led the effort to have the litigation, to have that thrown out. And guess what happened? The governor backed down. Second, if you take a look at actually the Trump alternate electors from the 2020 election, I represented one of them. And we actually, about 2.5 years later, got the charges dismissed. So both civilly and criminally, I was able to go against her, and guess what? We won. I want to be 3 for 3 for each and every one of you, all 10.5 million citizens of Michigan. Why? Because we have to do 3 key things. Number 1, we have to end the political lawfare, and what do we have to do instead? Actually go after real criminals. That's something that's super important. In terms of the Attorney General's office, that's about 20% of what they do. But the other 80% are both civil. And what is that? Number 1, protecting and restoring your constitutional rights, and then furthermore, making sure that we restore election integrity, because that's been sorely lacking. So with me as your candidate for Attorney General, what are we going to do? We're going to make Michigan absolutely ruby red again. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. I am Doug Lloyd. Thank you for coming out tonight. I know it's a cold night, and I really appreciate y'all being here. For you delegates, let's get right down to it. For me, I got into this because I'm tired of hearing people complain. I'm not a complainer, I'm a fixer. Let me tell you how that is. I've been an attorney for 34 years. Those first 4 years, I did all those things. The constitutional law, the business law, the real estate law. And in 1996, I had the blessing to actually become a prosecutor. For the last 30 years, that's what I've done. I've worked with the Constitution every day because it's my job to make sure that I'm defending the rights of criminals as well as the victims and the voiceless. In 2013, I was actually blessed to become the elected prosecutor in Eaton County. I'm still that today. That's what I do for my side job. I mean, my side job. It is my side job right now. This is my real job out here right now. But that's what I do every day. See, I've won 4 elections as a Republican in a county that doesn't always lean our way. And that's what we're going to have to think about, delegates, electability. Who can actually win that election when we get to November? Because if we want to stop complaining, we better actually win. For me, it's going to be about leadership. It's going to be about experience. See, I've actually prosecuted those people. I've prosecuted drug dealers, rapists, murderers, and even corrupt politicians. Done all that. Everything the Attorney General should have been doing, I'm doing on a daily basis. For me, it's really about think about it. That leadership ability. I lead an office of people already. I do budgets already. Everything the Attorney General does, I'm already doing it. I'm ready to start day one. I'm ready to see those changes happen. We'll move forward in this debate, and hopefully y'all will learn more. Thank you very much for coming out.
First question will go to you, Mr. Lloyd. What do you believe is the key to victory in your statewide race for the general election, and how do you plan to do it?
For me, the first step, obviously, is convincing the delegates, right? I mean, you've been there. That's the thing that's most important, is making sure you understand that you're actually pushing forward an individual who can actually win. How does that work? Well, you got to think about it, delegates. Who's going to be on the other side? And I hear that all the time. Well, we don't really care about the Democrats. Well, you better. I'm sitting in Oakland County right now, and one of the people that's running for Attorney General on the Democrat side is Karen McDonald. Another one is the Washtenaw County prosecutor, Ellie Sabat. Third one is a retired U.S. attorney from during Biden, and that would be Mark Totten. They've all got the experience of being a prosecutor, and they're all going to tout it when they get up there in the election. And they're going to argue that, well, go with the Democrats, we'll bring about public safety. How's that working out for us? You're going to need a voice out there who's going to actually say what public safety really means. See, for me, I've already had a plan. I did my due diligence. I made sure when I got in that there was a path to victory. There's money out there. People want to give it. They want to actually support Republicans because, see, we are the candidates that bring about law and order. Prosecutors are something that do it every day. People understand that. People understand that we're there to actually make people safer. So when I look at it, how do you move that forward? It's by the messaging. It's by the messaging of saying, you know what, the worst thing you're going to see about me is that maybe I'm too tough on crime. That's what you're going to see. Any other baggage that comes with it, well, you're not going to find it on my side. Plenty to be seen on the Democrats, plenty to exploit. That's how you move forward.
And for you, Mr. Caskey, what do you believe is the key to victory in your statewide general election, and how do you plan to do it?
Well, I agree with my opponent that you have to go ahead and secure the support of the precinct delegates and win the endorsement convention. I won the Mackinac straw poll by a margin of over 20 points over my opponent. But the thing is, though, when you talk to Michigan citizens, you have to talk to them about the things that they care about. You have to talk to them about, for example, restoring their constitutional rights, making sure that when it comes to parents and students, that their rights are going to be preserved and protected. Making sure that when it comes to, for example, Senate representation, that we're going to actually have Attorney General opinions, they're going to matter, that will tell the governor in the future, irrespective of party, you must call the special election within a reasonable amount of time, not leaving it vacant for about a year. The thing is, though, we have to talk about issues that they care about. I've been everywhere around the state, from Menominee, going all the way down, of course, here in Oakland County, where I'm from, in addition to almost every other place in between. People want to know exactly what you're going to do as Attorney General. And I'm going to, number one, again, end the lawfare. Number two, I'm going to ensure that when it comes to your constitutional rights, they're going to be protected day one. And third, people want to know, and this is actually both Republicans and Democrats, believe it or not, regarding recent polling, that your vote really matters. Election integrity is important, and we have to hold people accountable for that. So in terms of all of those issues, you got to talk about that. And then second, you have to raise the money. I'm the only candidate that was invited to actually go to D.C. to meet with the White House, in addition to the Republican Attorneys General Association, in addition to other individuals, frankly, that want to put money in this race. So the money, I agree with my opponent, it's there, but we have to have issues and a message that people are going to care about. Thank you.
Well, you weren't mentioned by name. He asked about his opponent. Do you have anything to say about that, Mr. Lloyd?
I do, actually, because it's going to become important, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about facts and not about lies. See, I was the only candidate that was actually invited to the 3-day conference for RAGA back in September. Been there, done that. If we want to pull out my phone, well, I was actually sent a text in November inviting me to Raga's Christmas party, a 2-hour event. I didn't go because, see, I had 8 events that I was going to for the delegates, because it was more important that I actually got to know you first before I worried about actually just talking about it to people. So when a person says that they're the only candidate, make sure you actually know the facts before you actually just make your statements.
Can I respond?
Is that the response?
I think I have 30 seconds, but I don't necessarily need the full 30 seconds. It wasn't just the Christmas party. It was meeting with the White House in addition to a whole bunch of other donors and over 20 Republican attorneys general talking about the issues about making Michigan absolutely red again. So I'm glad that you were invited, but you know what? I've been in this race for a while, met folks all over the state, have tremendous support, and yes, I think it's important to talk to the White House to make sure that we coordinate our messaging.
Thank you. We'll just start back with you again, if you don't mind. Why do you believe that you're the best candidate to face and beat the Democrat here in Oakland County?
Well, when it comes to Karen McDonald and myself, we both reside here in Oakland County. In fact, we only live about 1.5 miles away from each other. So the bottom line is not necessarily just proximity, but talking to my neighbors and other folks. Folks want to see someone that is not going to be a political activist. When you take a look at what actually is happening with Karen McDonald, she actually has gotten recommendations or endorsements from the MEA in addition to a whole bunch of other folks. And these individuals have an alternative point of view regarding what agenda that they want to push. So me, as your next Attorney General, I believe that talking about the issues that are important to voters and making sure that we're going to have that messaging that's consistent up and down the ticket is going to be absolutely important. And that's why, in terms of what I'm able to do, I can combat. I don't care if it's Ellie Savit out of Washington County, Karen McDonald here, or taking a look at Mark Totten. I mean, Mark Totten, for crying out loud, was actually the governor's chief legal advisor during the COVID lockdowns. You also had a whole bunch of things going on with Ellie Savit. What did he do? He allowed a Chinese national to actually escape the country when he was being charged with, frankly, voting as a non-U.S. citizen. So there are a whole bunch of things that we can see on the other side. We got to talk about the issues that are important, and also when it comes to the Democrats, making sure that we hold them accountable for the things that they have done.
Same question.
Couple of things.
Oh, go for it.
I'm gonna do that right now for you. All right, so let's look at it this way. Every other candidate on both sides of the aisle for Attorney General got in before me. But yet I'm the one who has 60 prosecutors across the state, over 30 sheriffs, and, oh, by the way, the Police Officers Association of Michigan, which represents about 12,000 officers. So if all those people were so great, why is it that they endorsed me? Because they understood that I'm not a political activist, that I'm actually about law and order. Y'all live in this county. You get to see on a daily basis how Karen McDonald screws up. See, there's a difference. I actually sit on the same boards as her. I've heard what she says privately and publicly. So for me, it's not looking from the outside window, wondering what she's going to do or what she's going to think. I already know what she is thinking. See, there was a reason that she did a poll in November and only put my opponent and Matt DePerno down on it, but left me out when she damn well knew that I was on the ticket. See, she did that poll because she beat everybody on the Republican side that she put. She left me off because she knew she couldn't beat me. There's also this little other piece. See, I've actually gone to 65 counties across the state. I didn't fly into Menominee. I did all 15 counties in the UP. I have the support of everyone around the state. And I can tell you this, there are so many people around the state who don't like any of the Democrat candidates, but they especially don't like Karen McDonald. And they just are dying to help actually see her lose.
Well, considering you mentioned, or the question mentioned Karen McDonald, I'm going to let Karen, she's not here. So, do you guys mind if I call you Doug and Kevin?
Oh, by all means,
Yeah,
please.
please do.
Easier for us.
Yeah, please do.
Doug, this question again, repeating from one to the next, so you're starting
Sure.
the next question.
We're used to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What would be your top priority or priorities if elected Attorney General?
See, here's the thing, and this is what I mentioned. We can't go out creating things until we actually fix the problems. And I think we'd all agree that there's a lot of problems that need to be fixed. For me, it's actually going into that office and reorganizing it. We need to actually take the time to go through the cases that are already there. See, here's the thing. There's so many cases that you and I could sit down and look at and go, why the heck did we ever file those cases? Well, for me, at my level, with my 34 years of experience and my common sense, I'm going to take those on personally. I want to take those on the day after election, because by the time we get in there, we should be able to choose. And you know, the second thing we should be looking at is, why is it criminal cases are only 20%? Think about it. When you're talking about regulatory issues, right? One of the things that the Attorney General is responsible for in regulatory issues is actually child care aspects. Well, why is it I'm talking to a mom in Gladwin County who tells me that she's about ready to stop being a daycare provider because every month she has some agency saying there's a new regulation that she somehow violated. She can't stay in business because she's being over-regulated. But yet, if you just saw Blaze News yesterday, there was an agency out of Grand Rapids, Kent County, where they somehow missed a woman doing 2 daycare provider agencies that were non-existent, and she took in $1 million. Well, see, maybe we should start thinking that if we actually brought more criminal charges, we would actually be able to stop the problems that are happening in this state. For me, that's the reorganization. Move those people around, get them out of DEI, get them out of suing Trump, and let's put them into positions where they're actually going to benefit the citizens of Michigan.
Kevin, what are your top priorities if elected Attorney General?
So number one, we have to make sure we have the right people in the right seats. I don't know if you guys know this, but ever since Dana Nessel took office, she actually increased the FTEs, or the staffing in her office, by frankly 50%. Her budget went from about $105 million to about just under $130 million. And that is not acceptable. It's the largest law firm in the state, has almost 300 attorneys. What do we do about that? Well, number one, I already had a conversation with Speaker Hall, and I'm not joking. We're not going to be coming back for an appropriation so we can actually increase the size of the office. We're going to become smaller, leaner, and we're going to make sure that we focus on the things that matter. Criminal prosecutions are important. It's 20% of the job. Really shouldn't be any more than that, because we should not be taking away authority in cases from local county prosecutors. But instead of actually doing the lawfare, you can free up folks to actually go after human trafficking and other particular types of crimes and problems that encompass many different counties. That's what the AG should be doing. Second, if I take a look at the AG's office, we're going to be starting to actually try to rectify the constitutional harms that have been caused by Dana Nessel. So if we're taking a look at, frankly, this whole notion of our Second Amendment rights, or more so Article 1, Section 6, we're going to bring constitutional carry here to Michigan. We can absolutely do that, in addition to having other AG opinions that are going to get started, because people want to see action, delegates want to see action, and frankly, all citizens here in Michigan want to see action, because we have been so inactive and frankly so underwhelmed by our Attorney General. We have to restore our faith in government. Thank you.
Doug, I'll let you start with this one.
Sure.
It's a little bit of a long question. So, what do you see as your primary role of the Michigan Attorney General? Chief Law Enforcement Officer, Constitutional Watchdog, or Policy Advocate, and why?
Well, it's all three, to be honest with you. If you're going to be the chief legal officer, you got to think you have three core responsibilities. You're supposed to be providing the constitutional rights for all the citizens. You got to protect them. That's your main thing, is you're protecting people's rights. Secondly, you're representing the state in court. Our Attorney General is the one who takes on lawsuits. From anyone who wants to sue the state, the Attorney General is the one who's actually responsible for it. The Attorney General is actually responsible for being the people of the state of Michigan when they're bringing criminal cases. And that third aspect is you're actually supposed to be providing good legal counsel to the legislature. You know, go ask your local legislature who's a Republican. Find out when it was the last time they ever saw the Attorney General. And then we wonder why it is exactly that that we're actually seeing the laws that are coming out of our legislature. See, the legislature isn't a bunch of attorneys. They're a bunch of people. They need an Attorney General who's actually going to take the time to help them understand, are they helping the citizens of Michigan or are they hurting it? Finally, that last aspect, I think you asked about consumer protection. Did you throw that in there? That's a whole other thing. You know, and that's the thing. When people talk about consumer protection, everybody wants to separate it out as to whether it's civil or criminal. Most of these things that you talk about, they're a combined aspect. Not only can you file a lawsuit against a business that's doing something wrong to the citizens, but let's take a building contractor. You can go after them for the licensing aspects, the consumer protection, but you can darn well turn around and go after them criminally as well. And that's the aspect. We have too many people who want to talk about, well, let's just sue them civilly. You know what that does? Absolutely nothing. You're either talking about money or some type of paper judgment, but you add a criminal aspect to it, it's amazing how people want to stand up and pay attention because nobody wants to go to jail.
Kevin, same question.
It was a long question, so you don't necessarily have to repeat it. But in terms of everything that you listed, you are perfectly describing the three different offices or bureaus that actually make up the Attorney General's office. All three of them are critically important. And why? Because we have to protect people both against, frankly, aggressors, but we also have to protect people in terms of our election integrity, making sure that we actually carry on the legacy of Frank Kelly of consumer protection. Do you know that Frank Kelly, actually the Attorney General, as they call him, was the very first AG, for the most part, across the entire United States to actually start his Consumer Protection Bureau, and then everyone followed that model. The thing is, when we take a look at these three particular aspects, we have to ensure that they're going to be done properly. And I agree with my opponent that you have to have criminal charges if you're not able to go ahead and get compliance, perhaps. But frankly, again, 80% of the job is civil. If I'm talking about MCR 2.116, C8, C10, which are MSDs or motions for summary disposition, you need someone actually that has done that type of work, that knows exactly what that is. Someone that actually has even filed cases before the U.S. Supreme Court, which I have, okay? The only reason why I was not heard is frankly because I got the elector case dismissed and they decided it was moot. Bottom line, everything is important. I'm going to make sure that all of your rights are protected from day one until the day I leave office.
Kevin, should the Attorney General ever decline to defend a duly enacted state law? Under what circumstances, if any?
To a certain extent, yes, I would say. For the most part, no. But let's take a look, for example, at COVID with the lockdowns that were occurring. So you actually had the Michigan Supreme Court inevitably go ahead and say, hey, these emergency powers, they're unconstitutional in the way that, frankly, the governor is exercising them, and then decided, at the end of the day to stop it. Well, I've told everyone that when it came to COVID, if I were the Attorney General at the time, I would actually go ahead and file suit. And I would actually go ahead after the governor, and I would not necessarily defend the way that particular state statute was carried out. I do think that if there are indefinite renewals of those emergency powers, that's a big problem. But as well, you need someone that's going to be able to take a look at all the different statutes, and if you see something that's not necessarily helping folks. Not only do you have to make sure that you have a duty to the people of the state of Michigan, but you also have to work with legislators in the sense of giving them sound, good legal advice. That's terribly important so that they can actually, as two legislators here, one very soon and one former legislator, that you're able to do the things that you need to do. So with that being said, when I take a look at all of this, you want to defend the state of Michigan, but if you have something that's not working for the vast majority of people, or if it's constitutionally deficient, you better take it on head on. And guess what? That's not criminal, that's civil, and you need to be equipped to do that.
Doug, and to you, should the Attorney General ever decline to defend a duly enacted state law? And under what circumstances?
See, for me, I look at that and I look at the fact that we need to go back to the legislature was the one who created these laws. If there was something that was wrong in them, they should have been dealt with before they were ever actually enacted. That's where your Attorney General comes in to actually point out if there's a constitutional malfeasance to the law. When I look at something like that or hear something like that, it makes me think of Dana Nessel. What did she do, right? Matt Hall and his group, through the powers of a law that was not young, said, you know what, we're going to pull back $645 million. They were allowed to do that. And then there came that word, Attorney General opinion, where they said, well, we're going to say that this tiny bit of the law was unconstitutional and you're no longer allowed to do it. That's the problem when you just freely use Attorney General opinions, because they can be overruled quite easily, either by the legislature itself or the courts. And what did we watch happen? A law that is allowed, that's constitutional. We've seen preliminarily that the courts have said, you know what, Dana Nessel, your Attorney General opinion, it wasn't worth squat. It wasn't worth the paper that it was written on. That's what we have to think about. If we're worried about laws that shouldn't have been enacted, because, let's talk about COVID. Once we got past that 30 days, everything they did was illegal. See, I knew that. That's why I didn't mandate COVID vaccines. That's why I didn't mandate masks in my office. I was doing that day one, didn't wait till November. I took care of it that way and making sure that we weren't actually prosecuting businesses in my county because I knew they weren't viable. That's how you take care of
it. As AG, how would you ensure that the Attorney General's office strictly adheres to U.S. and Michigan constitutions?
It's not a hard concept. See, as an assistant prosecutor, as the elected prosecutor, I've sworn to the state and federal constitution every 4 years that I've been a part of the process. If you're not following the Constitution and you're not following the state constitution, you shouldn't be working in that office. See, these are civil service agents. You're not just going to go in and clean house. They have rights. But one of those rights that they don't have is, to be fired for cause. They can be fired for cause by not following it. It's a construct that's been around for 250 years, your U.S. Constitution. We know how to follow it. The job of the Attorney General is actually to protect those 10 million people by making sure that their rights are sacred, by making sure their rights are protected, by making sure that the state's rights are protected. See, that's the thing we need to think about, right? Your Attorney General's first job should be Michigan first, then America first. I'm getting into this job to make sure we're protecting the sovereignty of Michigan first. And that means we're looking at our state constitution, which is sometimes more robust than the federal constitution in reality. But we got to make sure that we're actually doing that. If our individuals can't figure out how to do that, well, then that's one of the main ways that they shouldn't be employed as an assistant attorney general.
Kevin, same question.
In order to make sure that the federal, in addition to the Michigan state constitution, are going to be followed, you need to know it frontwards, backwards, sideways. You need to know actually the history behind it. You take a look at our country, yes, it's going to be 250 years old, but the Constitution certainly is not 250 years old. You actually had the Constitution that was ratified in 1789. There's 7 articles, 27 amendments. You have to take a look at actually the Constitution that was created here in Michigan, the most recent iteration in 1963. You need to know the various articles and provisions and the legislative history that sort of follows all of those particular debates. The bottom line is it's not necessarily just a trivia thing. It's about actually taking the Constitution and applying it and making sure that you defend the citizens of the state of Michigan. One thing that has been in the news recently, you take a look at Minneapolis. Minneapolis, big problems when it comes to ICE. You actually have a supremacy clause issue that's coming into play because you have the Minnesota folks that are trying to say, and I'm talking about the Democrats there, hey, you know what? We don't have to respect ICE. We don't have to work with ICE. And we're not going to necessarily follow through with the things that ICE wants to do regarding enforcing federal law. So if we had something, God forbid, Wood over here, got to make sure to knock on that. If we had a Democratic governor, and then that Democratic governor is like, you know, we're not going to be cooperating with ICE or we're going to be obstructing ICE, there's something that we have to consider, the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution. And I, as Attorney General, would tell the governor, you are wrong. So the bottom line is you have to protect all citizens, all rights, all the time, and you need to know exactly what the heck is going on so that you can actually defend folks. Thank you.
Your answer actually is going into the next question, perhaps, Kevin. As Attorney General, would you sue to stop sanctuary cities?
Absolutely, to this regard. So if you take a look, for example, I don't know if we have any Michigan fans in here, but the People's Republic of Ann Arbor, they are a sanctuary city. If you take a look at Michigan State, where I went to law school, I'll call it the People's Republic of East Lansing, okay? Doesn't matter. They have sanctuary policies. I've said this time and time again. It doesn't matter if you have a particular philosophy or an outlook regarding what you think should happen, but as soon as you are obstructing federal law enforcement, as soon as you are getting in the way of the federal government doing their job, that's a problem. And then you would actually sue in order to take care of that. One thing I would be doing, and I've spoken with many legislators about issuing guidance about sanctuary policies, is not necessarily just to say, hey, you know what, no more, that's there, that's going to be that, but this is what every particular city or municipality that is doing wrong in the sense of like trying to have these sanctuary policies. Those need to end. We actually have to audit these particular places, tell them where they are constitutionally deficient, and let them know. And if they don't go ahead and actually change that, guess what I'm going to be doing? We're going to be taking the attorneys that we have, and we're going to be going after these particular cities to make sure that they are following the law. Thank you.
Doug,
Yeah,
as Attorney General, would you sue to stop sanctuary cities?
See, my opponent and I totally disagree here, because here's the realities. When you talk about a sanctuary city, you're talking about local control. Let's think about that, right? How many places are now having to fight data centers, you know, solar panels, wind farms, because the community didn't want to have them in, but yet the government came in, the legislature, under a trifecta of all being Democrats, passed a law that said, well, we can just get rid of local control, and we can actually move forward and just put these data centers in by 3 people voting on it. See, that's not what the Attorney General is supposed to do. When you think about this and you think about sanctuary cities, where do most cities get their money from? They get them from the state and they get them from the feds. Well, guess what? President Trump's already said, you know what, you're not allowed to be a sanctuary city or I'm going to take your money away. Well, you know what? I live near East Lansing. I live in a safer community in Eaton County, but it's near East Lansing. And they're sitting there on the front page of the news concerned that what are we going to do because President Trump and Pam Bondi have said, we're taking away your $500,000 worth of money that you get. That's how they do it. I look at the legislators. I look at our future senator and I go, you know what? It's your money that you're handing out to local cities. Take it back. That's what you do. You take back the money and tell them that you're not going to get it if you're going to be a sanctuary city. And then if the feds want help, well, when they come in, they create a task force. Then the Attorney General has the authority to work because they've been given that authority by President Trump and the federal government. Then they have the ability to actually help in the stop of sanctuary cities. That's how it works.
Track, sorry about that.
That's all right, us too.
Should the AG investigate other statewide officials if credible allegations arise, even within their own party?
Yes.
Good answer.
You want me to, I can expand, but I'm good with yes.
Kevin?
Absolutely, yes. It does not matter if it's Republican, Democrat, or an independent. You need to go ahead and make sure that if there's credible evidence, you follow where the evidence leads. The thing is, though, I've been asked all over the place, are you going to be prosecuting X, Y, or Z in terms of officials? You don't go after people. You actually go after the actual crimes. You investigate them, and then you're able to do it. The thing is, if you take a look at Jay DeBoyer, who happens to be a Michigan representative, talking about the House Oversight Committee, there's lots of material there. We'll take a look at it, and we're going to properly investigate no matter where the evidence leads. Thank you.
How should the state balance being tough on crime with concerns about over-criminalization or prosecutorial overreach?
So that particular aspect, again, this is something that really resides with, number one, local county prosecutors, in addition to the legislature. The legislature, again, these are the nice folks that we have most of the time, like the folks that we have right up here, that actually create the laws that need to be enforced by the local prosecutors, the Michigan compiled laws. The bottom line is you have to balance it appropriately, because if you see that if you're not doing your job the right way and you have that imbalance, then you're going to be creating chaos. So the bottom line is you need to ensure that we don't over-criminalize things, and you have to give good legal advice to our legislators so that we can make sure that we maintain that balance that is necessary for a well-functioning, prosperous, and free Michigan. Thank you.
Here's the problem that we have. The legislature hasn't been provided good legal advice. I can tell you this because I'm the one who they call out to actually testify in the legislature. I've testified over a dozen times. See, when they wanted to put forward bad law, should have been the Attorney General who was actually getting up there to talk about it. But instead, she wouldn't show up, so they called me. And I'd look around going, why is the local county prosecutor here talking about something that affects the whole state? It's because they didn't care. Here's the realities, ladies and gentlemen. When you talk about over-criminalization, we have 32,000 people sitting in prison right now. The population is 10 million. Do the math of how minuscule that is. 80+% of the people are there for assaultive, violent crimes. It's easier to catch a Tom Brady football than it is to actually go to prison in this state. That's our problem. We actually talk about, oh, we're being too tough on crime. No, we're not. We've actually watched the legislature dumb down crimes. When you talk about a person, let's talk about the lady, the friend of the Attorney General that they couldn't even get to look at until a good Republican prosecutor actually took it in Kent County and is looking at it now. But the problem is, even if she's convicted, she's looking at 0 to 6 months in jail for stealing all that money that she did from the old lady. See, we're caring too less about crime. It's not an overcriminalization problem, and the citizens of Michigan, yeah, the families that are scared, that worry about crime, they get it. It's time that we actually get back to tough on crime.
Going into that, what is your stance on bail reform and sentencing reforms? Should they be strengthened, rolled back, or left as is?
Well, I can tell you right, is it me?
Yes.
Because I apologize.
Oh, go ahead, you're good.
Flipping back and forth, I figured it would be. I can tell you already that, I'm old enough to actually remember when we didn't have sentencing guidelines. And see, here's what would happen is that a person would get sent to prison for 3 years. And then the parole board within 18 months would let him out. And I'd get a phone call from a victim going, hey, you told me it was going to be 3 years. And I just saw the defendant who, beat me in Myers. So back in the 80s and the 90s, sentencing reform actually happened. Sentencing guidelines happened. And it was good for 2 reasons, because it let the defendant know how long were they going away, but it also let the victim know how safe they were going to be and not have to worry about it while they were there. Now, all of a sudden in 2020, well, it's been 2020 at least, we're starting to see additional sentence reform. We're starting to see where they want to start giving people good time again, letting them out earlier, making it that where the victims aren't going to actually know how long the person is actually going to prison for. We're trying to make it softer here. We're seeing it when we see the judges, the rogue judges that are actually not doing bail. Those are questions that get asked to me. What are we going to do about those people who went to jail 40 times and now they're out and they're stabbing somebody in a subway train, right? Well, the problem that we have there is that we haven't paid attention. We don't pay attention to who we're electing as judges, and then it goes on up. You delegates, you Republicans, you got to care this time. You got to get out and vote harder than you did for Trump. And it's got to start at the local level, because if we don't make changes there, we're going to continue to see soft on crime, and you're going to be the one worrying about it when you're in that subway. Are you going to be the one that's stabbed next?
So I'll just go ahead and answer because I remember the question. Here's the thing that we have on the Democratic side. You have 2 out of the 3 Democrat candidates for AG that actually have received George Soros funding. You know what George Soros is really about? He wants to make sure that there's bail reform, frankly, cashless bail, so that these folks are going to be on the street. So if you take a look at some of these horrendous murders that have happened throughout the country, that's because you have folks like George Soros that actually got involved, funded these particular prosecutors that got in charge, and they don't really care. I mean, my goodness gracious, you could take a look even at right now at this whole idea about how criminal sentencing occurs. A lot of you may not know, but when it comes to a defendant, once they take a plea or if they're found guilty, there's something called a PSI, pre-sentence investigation. Then they get a PSR, pre-sentence report. You take a look at the guidelines. The thing is, though, a lot of the judges who take a look at the guidelines, I'm not necessarily calling out any judge in particular, but all they do is, frankly, try to go for the lowest common denominator. I give those particular attorneys on the defense bar all the credit in the world for trying to do the great job that they do. But the other thing we have to really pay attention to is that a lot of our judges, most of them were not initially elected. Most of them, for the most part, were actually appointed by the governor. And then what ends up happening, they get the power of the incumbency, and then they just remain in office. So you have to pay attention to who you're actually electing as judges. We have to have that reform right now in this upcoming election season, or at least talking about it, in order to end the cashless bail, because George Soros is going to be putting a lot of money here to support candidates on the Democratic side, and we got to protect our communities and stop that. Thank you.
Kevin, I'll let you go with this one. What specific steps would you take to ensure election integrity and voter confidence here in Michigan?
So if you take a look at election integrity, and again, you can look at all these different polls. Republicans and Democrats are concerned about the sanctity of their vote. If you haven't done so already, I'm going to put a plug in for it. The U.S. Citizen-Only Voting Ballot Initiative, make sure you sign that so that that can actually appear in the Michigan Constitution. Why? Because it will make sure that, number one, we will actually have only U.S. citizens that are eligible to vote. Verification is going to be required. It's going to have a cleanup of the qualified voter file. All these things are very important. But we also have to make sure that when it comes to election integrity, we don't have things that Jocelyn Benson did, such as send out all these absentee ballots when some people didn't even really request them, or not doing the signature verification. You know, when it came to the Michigan Court of Appeals, they came against her twice and ruled and said what you did was not right, but it was far too late. So you need someone that's going to be a watchdog regarding election integrity. And again, if we find, you know, any type of fraud or any type of other problems that emerge from that particular activity in the future, then you have to vigorously prosecute, because every vote matters, and it should be only U.S. citizens voting. Thank you.
Doug?
First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that we actually nominate a good Secretary of State who can win the general election. Because if you want election integrity, the first step is your Secretary of State. I'm not going to be looking at the tabulators. You know, that's what election, people do. That's what your Secretary of State does. They're the ones that are in charge of that aspect. See, this issue was all new to me because as the Eaton County prosecutor, I work hand in hand with my county clerk. My local clerks have my number on speed dial. If there's any issue that happens in my county, well, we're on it immediately. So I want to see a good Secretary of State, because you want election integrity, you want transparency, then go out and nominate a candidate who can actually win the election. You got 3 good ones over there to take a look at. Make sure we pick the right one who actually wins. Otherwise, we're back to that old age where we're just complaining, right? And I'm really tired of the complaints. For me, what I want to do is be able to work with that Secretary of State, because I see it as broken up. You have election integrity and you have election fraud. That fraud is wide, whether it's fraud that's coming from, something within those tabulators, or it's voter fraud. Well, then you know what? If it's there, whether it's being found by us at the Attorney General's office in our elections unit, or whether it's being found by the Secretary of State, well, we're going after it. It's not going to be a civil case. We're looking to prosecute. We're looking to put people in jail, because that's the only way you make sure that the elections are secure, is that you're actually standing up and letting people know, if you mess with this, if you mess with Michigan, if you mess with the voting, there's going to be a price to pay.
Doug, do you believe Michigan's current election laws are sufficient to prevent fraud? If not, what changes would you advocate?
The laws themselves, are there. The problem that I have more is the regulations that the Secretary of State has decided to put in. One of those aspects that has been a concern to the local county clerks is the 7-day, having to get rid of the information within 7 days. And they're sitting there, well, how are we supposed to audit or do anything if we get rid of this? So my problem is that, obviously the legislature can do what they want as far as trying to strengthen the laws, but I'm more concerned when you see a rogue person, an elected official, right? Every elected official, they're elected by their constituents. They have responsibilities, but they have to follow the rules. When Benson decides to go out and add additional regulations that exceed the rules, well, somebody needs to step up and actually say something. We've seen how it works when we've seen the federal government come in, right? They've came in and they've sued her, 8 times now? Unfortunately, those suits are all civil suits, and once again, we see how those civil suits are working. They're not really causing her to make any changes. An attorney general should be standing up saying, we're going to take you on personally, elected official. I'll use her as an easy target. That if your regulations actually exceed the abilities that you have in your position, well, then it's our responsibility to actually point that out and take her on in court.
So the laws are really not there. Let's talk about that. Do you know that when it comes to voter registration, it's done automatically for the most part? And then furthermore, when it comes to voter registration, you have to opt out if you're not a US citizen. Otherwise, you actually just go ahead and get registered to vote. That's a problem. Why is that a problem? It's not just because of independent investigations that a lot of good folks here in the room have done, but even take a look at what just came out of Macomb County. You had actually the county clerk say in a statement and got national attention that we actually have people here that are not US citizens that happen to be on the voter rolls in addition to being in the jury pool. That's a problem. And the laws need to be strengthened to address that. As well, we need to make sure that when it comes to, since we're talking about civil suits as well, you have Pam Bondi right now through actually Hamid Dillon, the U.S. Assistant Attorney General in relation to civil rights, suing over HAVA violations, Help America Vote Act violations. They want to actually help to clean up those rules. You can't just throw those people in jail right away. There's a process in order to do that. It's civil in orientation and nature. But when it comes to accountability, that's the next thing that happens. You can't just throw around criminal charges all day. You have to go after people civilly first in a lot of these things. If I see a county clerk not doing, or a local clerk not doing what they need to do, you don't threaten them with jail time right away. You actually have to go ahead and go through the correct procedures. Bottom line, we have to protect the integrity of our vote, update our laws, and actually advocate to have them changed. Thank you.
Okay, let's see, we're going to move right along here. Are there current or recent federal policies you believe Michigan should have legally opposed more aggressively? Kevin?
If I take a look at federal policies that frankly need to be overcome or more so changed, luckily when it comes to President Trump and his administration, they're getting back on the right track. But the thing is though, I could take a look at a few years ago, take a look at all the stuff that was happening regarding Title IX, regarding women not necessarily having the sanctity of their sport, and you have guys in there. And then you have, frankly, all these rules, regulations, and policies coming from the U.S. Department of Education. We call these Dear Colleague letters that would say, you know what, this is actually how you need to allow men, biological men, into your sports. That's just ridiculous. There are too many examples even beyond that. You could take a look, for example, at the whole notion of actually these particular COVID regulations that were being pushed down by the federal government. Most of it was state, but how the Biden administration was trying to push that down. In addition, you could take a look at all the different lawsuits that the Republican attorneys general that were Republican were filing regarding, for example, the whole healthcare mandate and a whole bunch of other things. There's so many things that need to have been addressed before. Too bad we didn't have a Republican attorney general at that point. But guess what? We're going to make Michigan absolutely ruby red again. And then partnering with the Trump administration, we will make sure that all the federal rules, laws, and regulations are going to be serving the people of Michigan. And if changes need to be made, I know exactly how to advocate for that because it's too important to have your constitutional rights and your freedoms at risk. Thank you.
Ready?
You gonna read it again?
No. You want me to?
No, I think I can get through it. Here's how I look at it when we talk about, are we gonna sue the federal government? I sat there for 4 years watching Joe Biden allow illegal aliens to just wander freely into our country. Now, if I had been the Attorney General at that time, you can darn well guess that I would have been suing. Because you got to think about it. Our state dollars that we pay in taxes are the taxes we pay. We pay state and federal taxes. Those were our dollars that were being spent. When we think about it, where does our SNAP benefits come from? All those people who are getting benefits in regards to, being unemployed, Medicaid, well, that's all federal dollars coming down to the state. How are those monies being used in a sense that we're not benefiting the citizens of the state? Fortunately, President Trump was elected, and so he's reversed course on a lot of those. But, and I can only hope that we elect a Republican in 2024, but as your Attorney General in 2024, if I were to see a Democrat prosecutor or president go back to being the way Joe Biden was, I would say that anytime they were actually doing things that were affecting Michigan's sovereignty, allowing individuals to come into our state illegally, taking dollars that belong to us, well, then I'm going to file suit against the federal government to stop it.
For timing purposes, we're going to go through a couple more questions. So lucky for the candidates here, I have to cross out all the bar questions from the Michigan bar exam I pulled off.
Nice.
Pam Bondi just appointed an assistant attorney general specific for the purpose of investigating fraud. Can and should Michigan do something like that?
Actually, is it me or is it you?
Yeah, it's
all right. Yes, I can go into it a little deeper. There's already the aspects in the Attorney General's office. That's the problem. I look at the Attorney General's office as I look at an old house. The bones are there. Bones are good. Problem is that they've just been shifted around so badly that they don't know what they should be doing. There's different fraud units within the Attorney General's office. There's a civil aspect when they're talking in regards to civil fraud, and when you're talking criminal fraud. It's all there. The people are there. You'd be amazed if you actually met the assistant attorney generals that work there. Most of them are actually conservative. Most of them just want to be those good public servants and actually work for the citizens of Michigan. But they've been required by the elected political activists to move on to do different things. So when we're talking about fraud, yeah, why don't we work at that? Why don't we work at actually stopping the businesses, stopping the individuals? When we talk about the lady who takes on $10 million, through MEDC, why does it take for her to actually buy a $10,000 coffee maker before somebody looks around to find out how much money she's actually taken? See, those are the things that are getting missed at the state level. The AG's office just happens to close its eyes and look the other way until it's so pointed that they have no choice but to look at things. The units are there. The ability to actually prosecute is there. Just has to have the people that are actually put in the position to do the job. So far, we haven't had that. But if we're going to make it right, if we're going to bring back dollars to Michigan and stop the fraud, you're going to need a leader who can actually get in there and put the people in place so that they can actually go benefit the citizens of Michigan.
Future Senator, to answer your question, yes. We need to have actually, frankly, a point person on that high level in the Attorney General's office, more so in the cabinet. Why? Two big reasons. Number one, when I was actually in DC talking to the Republican Attorneys General, one of the big topics they came up was actually indemnification. You know what that means? Paying money back. Because if there is fraud that actually happens with federal tax dollars that end up coming to the states for various programs like SNAP, taking a look at Medicaid, any of these other things, you actually have to pay that back. Do you know that Michigan, we haven't really looked at that? Do you know that could actually be perhaps way over $1 billion? That's a problem, because if there's misfeasance and malfeasance that occur, basically people doing bad things, well, that's going to be on the state for not actually being the watchdog. A A lot of people were concerned about that. And second, I spoke with, actually, when Trump was here in town with Speaker Hall, not quite 10 minutes, but we were chatting on the floor right before the event. And one of the things was about doging state government. We hear that all the time. I know that's a very popular term. I'm sure that's going to be a banned word, you know, or acronym in the near future. But the bottom line is we need to make sure that we hold folks accountable. We have to take a look and see what's going on. And then any of the things that come out of, for example, the House Oversight Committee or any of these other watchdog committees, they can actually report that directly to that brand new individual or newly assigned individual, I guess you could say. And then we're going to be able to take care of it because your tax dollars are important. You don't want to be on the hook to pay the federal government a whole bunch of money back because people were not doing their jobs and not watching over our programs. Thank you.
When elected, how would you ensure transparency and accountability within the Attorney General's office?
One thing I'm very happy that Speaker Hall was able to do, and we spoke about this a few different times joking about it, is that actually you took that whole appropriation for the Attorney General's office and they broke it up into just under 30 different line items. That's really important. We also have to report on the particular activities to the legislature, not because, you know, they just happen to be legislators, but because when we take a look at the actual Michigan Constitution, they have to safeguard the people's money. So if they want to actually make sure that it's being well spent, we have to make sure that we give you the appropriate information. As well, if you take a look at the AG's office, in addition to the governor's office and a whole bunch of other offices, do you know that for a large portion of them, or a whole bunch of things, they're actually exempt from FOIA? That's ridiculous. So, I mean, we need to have proper rules, regulations, procedures to ensure transparency in how our government works. Things shouldn't have to be hidden, play hide the ball. Let's go ahead and actually put it out there. You see public corporations do this all the time with their stockholders. Well, you know how many stockholders we have here? 10.5 million citizens. So let's go ahead and report everything that needs to be reported to our folks here in Michigan so we can hold folks accountable. Thank you.
If you're going to be transparent, if you're going to be open, you actually need to know how to do the job. See, it's funny when we talk about FOIA. I was just dealing with FOIA in my office today. We had a young man who was murdered 4 days ago, and we had a defense attorney who wanted information about the case. As the elected prosecutor, I was having to make the determination what was going to be redacted and what was going to be allowed out while that investigation was taking place. When we talk about money, I'm trusted with a budget every year. It has many line items on it. Items of things that I have to do. Where am I going to spend my money? How am I going to spend my money? And then I have county commissioners who are going to make sure that my money is being spent correctly. I've questioned, as I've gone through this race, of why it is I can watch people at the county level actually do their job and do it in a timely manner, but yet they get up to that state level and they seem to forget how to actually do things. Maybe it's time that we actually bring someone from the county level, someone who actually has the experience, the know-how, who's actually been doing this. You know, when we talk about being transparent, it's not hard. My office is transparent every day. You know, it's just when we get up to the state level that people want to seem to forget that we're not there for ourselves. See, if you're going to be a public servant, remember your job is to serve the public, not yourself. Your job is to serve 10 million people. You know, for me right now, when I stand up and say, I'm here for the people of the state of Michigan, specifically the citizens of Eaton County. That's what you got to know. I think once you figure that out, transparency and openness shouldn't be that difficult.
What experience best prepares you to serve as Michigan's Attorney General on day one?
Experience. Do I got to limit it to one? See, here's the thing. Delegates, let's be honest about it. I'm walking in with 34 years of experience. All those things when people talk about, well, I filed lawsuits or I did this, yeah, I've done those too. I've been a prosecutor for 30 years. Do you realize that a prosecutor has over 500 constitutional and statutory rights or responsibilities? I mean, those core ones that you go to court and that you protect the defendant's rights until they're found guilty, yeah, it's just the basic ones. So I've been doing that. When we talk about the aspect of electability, it's kind of an important word, right? Are we tired of losing, or do we actually want to win? Because, see, I didn't get into this race to lose. For me, I'm already a winner. I've won 4 elections as a Republican. I know how to win. I know how to raise money. All of those are going to be important to be your Attorney General. And then there's the aspect of actual leadership. You better understand that when you're talking about having attorneys, you better have actually led attorneys. Because, see, they come with 7-year degrees too. And they come with egos and the belief that they are smarter than you. How are you going to lead those attorneys in the direction that you want them to go? Coming in and ordering them to do things isn't going to work. You're going to have fast, hard abilities. You're going to need the experience to be able to say when they go, whoa, we don't do things that way. Yeah, we do now, because it can actually be done. But it's going to take that years of experience and common sense to actually do it. For me, it's all that's being brought forward that actually makes me ready to lead on day one.
I agree with my opponent that experience matters. I actually went up against the current Attorney General twice and won. As well, I've led an organization that actually has 3,000 employees in addition to 90 different units, or schools, I guess you can say. And not only just being the superintendent, but also operating as the general counsel for that particular entity, the Archdiocese of Detroit. So when it came to one of the largest civil law firms in Michigan, not necessarily the Attorney General's office, but it's located in Troy, I was able to take a look at everything that came in and direct it and make sure, working with these attorneys collaboratively on employment issues, on education law issues, on financial issues, on HR issues. Those are really, really important. So with that being said, you need someone that actually has led a large group, actually has experience doing it, being very successful doing it. And you also need to have someone that has actual experience going against the type of stuff that we're running against, so that we can actually make a better, affordable, frankly, freer Michigan, so we protect your constitutional rights. Thank you.
Kevin, I'm going to ask you a question here. What personal thing that you've done, be it in your attorney's career or a career as a possible Attorney General, what is it that you're the most proud of achieving?
The thing I'm most proud of right now, there are several, is actually when it came to representing Cliff Frost, one of the 16 alternate electors. We have to remember, frankly, that time. Right now, everyone loves talking about that. I don't mind talking about it, but at the time that Cliff Frost came to me, that was a time that a lot of attorneys didn't want to take the case because they were afraid of the lawfare that could happen against them. That was a time where you actually needed to have courage and stand up. And you needed to have someone that was super smart. I'm not saying I'm the smartest guy, but someone reasonably intelligent so that you could take on the largest law firm in the state, the AG. The thing I'm really proud about is that when it came to the dismissal on September 9th of last year, actually seeing a Democrat-appointed judge, a rule of law judge, by the way, actually see our briefs and saying, you know what, you guys are right. And when she was actually going ahead and reading her opinion to dismiss the case, I had one of the attorneys for one of the other electors sitting immediately to my right. And he leaned over and he's like, sounds like she's actually reading directly from your brief. And that's probably one of the most proudest moments I've had in the last several years, but there are others too. The bottom line, you need someone that has a track record of winning and having the courage in order to take these things head on. I'm that guy, and I'm happy to go ahead and do it for all of you. Thank you.
Doug, in your career, and I know it's been long and colorful, which is great, what is the one thing that you're the most proud of?
My kids.
Well, that's a good answer.
I mean, that's the thing to think about it, right? I have been in this a long time. I've handled tens of thousands of cases. Somebody asked me, well, what are your most memorable? You know, it's easy to forget the ones you win, because I win. It's the ones that you lose that stick with you. You know, for me, I've always been proud because my wife, by the way, was an assistant prosecutor for 30 years as well. But when they were little, my sons would get asked, well, what do mommy and daddy do? They put the bad guys away. I could sleep at night with that. I mean, if that's what my sons thought, that, you know, that I was trying to keep our community safe. I'll take you to a weird one, because, you know, I can tell you to go to court TV and you can watch a 9-day cold case murder trial if you can't sleep at night. Yeah, I can tell you to go look up the many documentaries I've had of a 4-week murder trial back in 2013. I can tell you to go look in the news how I was, you know, the first drug prosecutor to actually do a meth lab that looked like Breaking Bad on it in the early 2000s. I can tell you about all those. But let me give you one case that kind of tells you why I do what I do and why it's important to me. I ran our economic crime unit, still there. It's been in business 20 years, returned $10 million to area businesses. Had an old man walk in and goes, you know what, Doug, I need your help. I'm like, how can I help you? He goes, I had a guy come over and wanted to do my roof. And he said, you know, 25 grand, I'll do it. And I said, and I gave it to him, and my wife said, don't. And then he put a ladder out there with a chain. And now my wife looks at it every day in the mirror, can you help me? Yeah, we went after that roofer. We prosecuted him and got his money back. And the biggest thing was we took that ladder out of there where his wife wasn't yelling at him anymore. Those are the little cases I remember.
Thank you. Nice job.
What is one issue, if you're aware of, one issue where you may differ most sharply from your opponent in this race?
Is it me or? It's
you.
me? All right. Whew. I'm sure there's a few. You know, obviously you already heard me say in regards to sanctuary cities. I think the aspect really that we differ in is electability. That's the cold, hard truth. You know, when we're talking about who's going to actually make it through the general election, well, delegates, and I ask all 2,000 that are going to show up to really pay attention to that. Because you can have all the messaging in the world, but if the Democrats are able to take your baggage and throw it up on billboards, throw it on bumper stickers, and throw it on ads every 5 seconds, then you're going to lose. See, I don't carry that. I don't carry any baggage. Other than the fact that I'm older, other than the fact that, you know, I'm not a cheerleader. See, I've actually been on the field playing the game. I don't stand on the sidelines and go rah-rah. That's what you get when you get with me. Those are the things I come with. But I also come with that ability to win. See, because that's another thing. I've actually been elected. I've actually done the job. That's going to matter this time. And it's going to matter to the people of the state of Michigan.
Here's where I'm going to agree with my opponent. Electability is very important. Because again, when it comes to any particular candidate, the Democrats are going to do their research. And frankly, if you take a look at, frankly, cases that have been lost or more so not even filed, where the Michigan Attorney General takes it over, and then they decide to go ahead and press charges when someone sat on something, that's a particular issue. So you have to make sure that when we take a look at everything, that you're not going to just necessarily have the messaging in order to talk about your stuff, but you're going to have the goods on the Democrats. That's really important. And frankly, if you take a look at electability, being a former prosecutor, you know who wasn't a former prosecutor? Former AG Bill Schuette. As well, when it comes to former AG, taking a look at Frank Kelly as well. They weren't prosecutors before. And being a prosecutor, I have all the due respect for my opponent over here, but that's not, again, the bulk of the job. The bulk of the job is actually leading an office and making sure that you're able to follow and defend and protect the Michigan along with the U.S. Constitution. Thank you.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I think we're ready to go to the final closing comments. I guess we could start with you, Kevin, since, and we'll give 2 minutes each for that, if up to 2 minutes.
So I'm going to be brief. When it comes to Michigan, we're at a point in our history where we cannot have another 4, God forbid, 8 years of a Democrat Attorney General, because what's going to end up happening? You're going to have someone that's going to be issuing Attorney General opinions that are going to be probably overturned by the courts, like we just saw with Attorney General Nessel trying to get rid of the $645 million that the State House actually cut out of work projects. You're going to have someone that is going to still engage in political lawfare and be an activist. With me, you're not going to have any of that. Again, I want to make sure that we go back to the core functions of the Attorney General's office, that we're able to stop the lawfare and start really doing the actual prosecutorial work through the criminal division over there. As well, we have to protect our constitutional rights. We have to make sure that when it comes to students and parents, that they're going to have their constitutional rights protected so that parents are not going to be considered domestic terrorists. We have to make sure that when it comes to our families, they're going to be able to protect themselves. You need to have someone at the vanguard in order to do that. And as well, none of this is going to come to fruition until or unless we have election integrity restored. And it's not necessarily just having a Republican SOS. I think that's great. But what do we have to do? We have to make sure that we have an Attorney General, Republican or Democrat being SOS, that actually has a partner in the AG's office and providing that oversight. So let's make Michigan absolutely ruby red again, and we're going to do it in 2026. Thanks for your support. Thank you.
You know, the greatest thing when you get to the end of the case is that you get to go, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've had the opportunity to see the facts and evidence. And now you're going to go off and make the determination as to whether a person should move forward as the delegate or not. See, for me, I look at it this way. I don't care about ruby red. What I care about is conservative. I can care about Republicans. I care about the fact that I've watched the Democrats for the last 8 years tear this state down. And I care about the fact that we don't have anybody trying to fix it. Well, guess what? I'm a fixer. That's what I do. That's exactly why I got into this business. It's what I've done for the last 30 years. It's what I've done since I've been elected. We fix problems. These problems can be fixed, but we have to work together. I do care that we get a Republican Secretary of State. I do care that we get a Republican governor. We need them all. For me, my expectations are simple because I have them for myself every day, and you can take them with you out of here and know that when I'm your Attorney General, they will be there right there with you. I will protect your God-given constitutional rights. I do it now for my local constituents. I want to move it to the whole state. We're not going to bring a case, whether it be criminal or civil, unless we can prove it on the Constitution and the law. Those words, political lawfare and political activism, they die day one. It's not a hard concept. You just do it. I'm going to actually work with the legislature to provide good legal counsel so that we bring out those conservative laws. And finally, the one core aspect, the Attorney General is not about me. It's not about it's about all of you. Representing 10 million people and making sure all of you are safe. That's going to be done every day, always. Appreciate your support.
Well, I want to particularly thank Doug Lloyd and Kevin Kiefsky for coming out tonight and answering all these questions. I want to thank everybody who sent in the questions. Particularly, I want to thank Anthony Bartolota, the supervisor, for letting us use this facility, and our sponsors, Genevieve Peter Scott, who's running for Senate. She's back there somewhere. There she is. I saw she came in. Thank you for sponsoring. And Tony Prieto, who's here. Thank you for sponsoring also. And Anthony Forlini, I think you're here. Is he here? Also sponsoring. And also to all of our precinct delegates who came out. You're doing a good job by doing all this work, your homework. And come out and see us February 25th, Deer Lake Athletic Club, for a very good meeting there. The flyers are on the table. Thank you all for coming. Good job.